So now we're on to solving quadratic equations by factoring. And there's a couple of words in there that we need to look at before we actually do the question. Solving means find x. So you're finding out what number x is going to be. A quadratic equation is one that has x squared as the highest degree. It can't have an x cubed. It has to have an x squared. And it shouldn't be any more complicated than just x squareds and x's. So going through to find out what a quadratic equation is, it's an equation that has x squared as its highest degree and nothing more complicated than that. No square roots, no exponents, like a number to the power of x. Just an x squared, an x, a number. If there is no x, it's just an x squared and a number, then that's still okay. But it just needs to be that simple. Otherwise, it's not a quadratic. Okay, these two are both quadratics because we have an x squared and we have an x times an x, which is going to give us an x squared. So we can continue. Now the first one is just a normal trinomial and they've made it equal to 0. So if it's equal to 0, then that means we can factor it and then set the brackets equal to 0. I'll show you what you mean. This one's a simple one. It just starts with x squared, so I can just write my x's here. And then I can figure out what number multiplies to -8 and adds to -2. It's a negative number, so there's going to have to be a positive and a negative in here. Factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. So 2 and 4 have a difference of 2, and the negative is the one that wins, so we make it 2 and -4. So we're going to put those in, plus 2, minus 4, and remember that that's been set equal to 0. So what that means is that either x plus 2 equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0, because if that were true, then 0 times no one cares, doesn't matter what it is going to be 0. Sorry, I made that a bit messy. And if this one's 0, the answer will be 0 as well, because multiplying anything by 0 gives you 0. So we make x plus 2 equal to 0, and we make x minus 4 equal to 0. For this to be true, x would have to equal -2, right? -2 plus 2 is 0. And for this one to be true, x would have to equal 4. So when we're solving, we're finding the values of x that would make the equation true. Now, this one's pretty simple. When you do that, you've got your brackets. You just factor as usual and then set each set of brackets equal to 0. Find that missing value and you're done. This kind of a question is a little bit more complicated because what we're seeing here is I've got a number over there, not just 0. I've got a number, and I'm not interested in trying to figure out what number goes here and here at the same time to give me 3 as a product. That would be crazy. So what I'm going to do instead is simplify it. I can't simplify anything the way it is because these are set up in brackets. Order of operations is totally mucked up. What I can do though is FOIL. So I'm going to FOIL this. 2x times x gives me 2x squared. Outside, 2x times 1 equals 2x. Inside, -3 times x gives me -3x. And last, -3 times 1 gives me -3. Now that's all equal to 3. What if I made it equal to 0? And then I could simplify the term, factor it, and be done. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to bring this 3 over here, and I'm going to rewrite this whole thing in a simplified way. So 2x squared, I can remember that these guys are going to simplify down and collect my like terms, and I'm going to have to write -x there. And then when this one comes over, it's going to be -3. So -3 and -3 is going to give me -6. Now, there's nothing on the other side, so it's equal to 0. Now what I can do is factor this. It's very simple. It's the same kind of idea as this now, except that there's a number here, which means I'm going to have to write down, let's do that in a different color. I'm going to have to go 2 and 6, or 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Factors of negative 12 to get me negative 1 would have to be 3 and 4, with the 4 being the negative because it's the bigger one. So I'm going to set my brackets up then. Oops, sorry, not setting my brackets up yet, getting ahead of myself. I go 2x squared plus 3x minus 4x minus 6 equals 0. So I'm doing decomposition here, which means that I'm going to collect my like terms from the first one, which just looks like it's x, which would leave me with 2x plus 3 in the brackets. Then I would take my common factor from the next set. That's a negative, so I have to make this negative. 4 and 6 have 2 in common, so I would have a 2x there, and negative 6 divided by negative 2 gives me positive 3, which would make my brackets the same, which is important. It's all still equal to 0. So now I just write my final collection of terms. X minus 2 times 2x plus 3 equals 0. So this one's easy. To make this equal to 0, x would just have to be 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Good, you're done. This one's a little more complicated, so to write this one, out, 2x plus 3 equals 0, I'm just going to have to use algebra. So I move the 3 over, make it negative. So 2x equals negative 3, and because there's a 2 here, I'm just going to divide that. So x is going to end up being negative 3 over 2. So to solve this one, we could say that x is equal to 2 and negative 3 over 2. There's our final answer.